Hello everybody and welcome back to the next episode of my Red Dead Redemption 2 playthrough. The last episode of my one episode wrap up that I planned to do a long time ago. But yeah, there was just so much to this game. I didn't realise just how much there still was to do, even once the game, like the story has ended. There's just so much in this game to discover and do. So this episode I'm going to be, I've got a few maps, a few guides to follow, and I'm going to be picking up all of the rock carvings, the dinosaur bones, and the dreamcatcher trees. That was it. If I can, I'm going to do the cigarette cards as well via a shop. Thank you very much for recommending that in the comments. And a few other little bits that I want to do. And someone also said the reason I couldn't find Bigfoot might have been because I kept going during rainy weather. So the birds weren't showing up, so maybe if I go during good weather, which I'll try. I know I said I wouldn't do it anymore, but I'll try just once more in good weather, because that could be why it's not working for me. Yeah, so that's the plan for today. I've got a lot to talk about. There are a few more questions that come in the comments, which I will answer. And obviously I've got my wrap up last few bits to answer. The three main points that I was going to touch on were my thoughts on the game as a game, not including the story, just how it plays, my thoughts on the story, and then what I'm going to take away from this game as well. I genuinely think I've been struggling to get around to recording this one because I know it's the last one. I feel like I've got separation anxiety, I don't want to let it go. Even though I'm going on to another playthrough of Red Dead, but this is my first playthrough, and after this episode it's over. It's all done. So I don't want to let it go. But it has to happen someday. The show must go on, so let's commence. It'll be interesting to see, because when I saw Mickey in that, he'd say that Arthur wasn't always a nice guy, but he liked him, sort of thing. And then when I met that the veteran in Road, so I think was he missing an arm or a leg? I can't remember which. I think it was his leg. Yeah, Mickey was missing the arm. This guy was missing a leg. And he said Arthur didn't seem the type to kind of sacrifice himself to save John or whatever it was. And yeah, and I'm wondering, because I thought I played Arthur so nicely. I know it wasn't perfect, but he did so many good things. He had really high honour at the end. So I wonder if they'll say anything different, or if that's just standard once I've done low honour Arthur. We'll see. Okay. I'm just going to start on the collectibles, and rather than doing all of one and then all of the other, I'm going to try and just do them all as I go, so I'm kind of working methodically across the map rather than going all of one way and then all of the other way and having to do all 3 times. So let me get my maps up, see what's close by. I guess I should probably go down to New Austin. From what I remember, the rock carvings were kind of all over everywhere apart from New Austin. The dreamcatcher trees were everywhere apart from New Austin and West Elizabeth. I think they were all kind of condensed to the right hand side of the map, or the New Hanover and Roanoke Ridge and Lemoyne and stuff. And the dinosaur bones were everywhere, including New Austin, so I think I should go down there, cover New Austin, and then the dinosaur bones and the rock carvings in West Elizabeth, and then all of them in the rest of the map. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So the other thing will be, what have I already collected on this map? I think, yeah, so he draws them, so that's quite a good sign. So I found that one, and there was another one apparently over here somewhere. Those two are the furthest away, so those are the ones we're going to go for. Let's head back to the desert. So on my way, I'm going to start answering questions. I've got a lot to get through, so I can't hang around. So the first question is from John O'Brien, and it's a 3-part question. The first being, would I like to see a Red Dead Redemption 3? Yes, absolutely I would. I will be devastated if there is not a Red Dead Redemption 3 eventually. I know a game like this is going to take a long time to make. I don't mind waiting for a game this good, but they have to make it. They can't not make another one. The other part of the question, I'm going to swap the order. One is when do I want it to, or when do I think it would be set, or where would I like it to be set? You know, like another prologue to Red Dead Redemption 2, so each time it goes back a generation. Hey Jenga, you right? Good to hear it.
You and me, fella.
Would you like a Red Dead Redemption 3? Yeah? Okay, that's good. Me too. Where would you like it to be set, Jenga? What time? I think it'd be really cool to have another prologue. In the same way that the second game was set before the first one, I think again, having the third one set before the second one and making that like a tradition or like a thing would be pretty cool. I think being set at the same time as Red Dead Redemption 2 or a bit afterwards wouldn't be so bad. There is that gap, of course, between the events of this game and Red Dead Redemption 1. I think any time after, if you go after Red Dead Redemption 1 though, you're just getting into like modern sort of, yeah, industrial age. It's kind of losing the cowboyness. So I think definitely Red Dead Redemption 2 or sooner, but I think it'd be really good to have it set before Red Dead Redemption 2. I mean, potentially it could be in the midst of like the Civil War and stuff. Like there's loads that could be done for it. That'd be cool. We've been playing all of these games with outlaws, but kind of when the time of the outlaw was coming to an end, so it would be great to play an outlaw in a time when, you know, outlaws were at their peak, you know. Yeah, I think that would be really cool. And another question was who do I think would be the protagonist, or who would I like to be the protagonist? I don't know. We don't know much about him, but I mean, this wasn't my idea. I can't take credit for this. Someone in the comments a long time ago said it would be cool to see Arthur's father, and then yeah, the epilogue could be either Arthur joining the gang, which would have been really cool to see like the young gang members back when they were having better days, or they were like a really small gang. But I don't know if they'd ever do this, but I would love for it to end at Blackwater. Because we heard so much about Blackwater, but we never really knew exactly how it went down, other than like the few snippets we were told. And I think that would be such a big climactic way for it to end, and then it would go straight perfectly into Red Dead Redemption 2. In the same way that if you play the epilogue of Red Dead Redemption 2, it flows really nicely into Red Dead Redemption 1. Aha, there we are. So yeah, I think that would be really cool. Arthur's dad, and then the epilogue being Arthur. Here we go. Oh, it's going to feel like such a productive day getting all of them. I know I'm cheating. I'm still going to get the dopamine rush. Dinosaur Bones, 10 out of 30. Woo. And the next one, apparently one here. There were like 3, not quite in a line, but like that. And I've obviously found 2. It's just that middle one I need to go to. Yeah, so potentially there could be, like, seeing young Dutch and young Hosea and their adventures would be pretty cool. Trying to think of who else. Shaun's dad sounded like he had a very action-packed life. But I don't know if... I know it sounds cruel, I don't know if he'd be like significant enough to like have a whole game based on him. I mean, to be fair, I don't know how much Arthur was referenced in the first game. And I don't know how cowboyish that would be, because I think he fled to America, so obviously before then it wasn't even set in America. But yeah, being on the run, being hunted down, and then that massive shootout in the house. And then, I don't know, the epilogue could be Shaun finding his way into the gang. But yeah, I think if I had to pick one, like the strongest and like best one I could think of would be Arthur's... Hello! Arthur's dad would be like quite a strong one in terms of like, you know, we're so attached to Arthur, it would be really cool to see his beginnings. But I don't know what kind of life his dad had, if it was anything of like, I don't know if he like had an exciting outlaw life or if it was just, you know, he was just a grumpy man who drank a lot or, yeah, I don't know. So that might not be a good suggestion. And of course, I'm very biased about Shaun's dad because he's Irish, and that would be, can you imagine me if I played a game where the main character just had that accent? It's not even just an Irish accent, it's like Shaun's accent specifically. Like Molly had an Irish accent, and it was a gorgeous one. But like Shaun's one was like the best of the Irish accent. I've been playing Red Dead Redemption 2, this one playthrough for almost a year. But if you gave Arthur an Irish accent like that, I'd never leave. I couldn't. Gosh, yeah, I'd never have found that. It's so sneaky, it's all hidden. Buell? Where'd you go? Why are you over there? Where next? I have not yet found it. It looked like it was here-ish. Maybe a bit more here. I had a great question as well from Johnny, which was my favourite random events, which I don't think I've been asked yet, but that was so not quests, not side missions, but just some random RNG events you come across. This isn't a proper answer, but I loved the ones that glitched out. It didn't matter what type it was, if like the wagon would fall from the sky or yeah, something like crazy would happen, like the game would just glitch out and make something stupid happen. Those are the ones that always made me laugh, that I really liked. But I actually didn't realise that the mission where Bill gets captured by mercenaries was a random event. I just assumed that was like a proper part of the story. So yeah, definitely that was one of my favourites. It felt so interesting, I assumed that was like a... yeah, just part of like the main story playing out. And one thing I really liked about that as well is... who was it? Was it Charles? I can't remember, but they were talking about Bill and how he's becoming a problem and Dutch needs to do something about it. And I kind of thought like it gave you some good insight into how other people are feeling about other gang members, or how like they were feeling about Bill. But yeah, I didn't realise that was just a random event. Here we go. That's a cool looking one. It's like a fishtail. Guess we are by a lake. Oh, didn't I say before about... I wonder if like those steep ridges were once like the banks of a even greater lake. And you've got all the water down there now, but I wonder if this was all filled up to like those, not mountains, but you know what I mean. Would explain why this was up here, if in the dinosaur ages maybe. Alright, we've almost cleared the desert. No, apparently there's one like here. But I'll grab that one first and then go up to there and then we can head back over to West Elizabeth.
Hey, hey, easy.
Oh, on the other side.
All right, my boy.
Another one that I don't like to admit, but I actually really liked. I was so impressed by the Night Folk random events. kind of hate them because they're super scary, and I always, like, there are times where I genuinely felt really anxious from the suspense, but it was just so well done. The way it kind of like drew you in, and yeah, and then just caught you by complete surprise. They kind of kept mixing up their method quite a bit. I know a lot of the time it was, oh, you find a body in a tree and then they jump you, but even then there was times where I found a body in a tree and they didn't, and then I was like, what's going on? So yeah, they made me feel very uncomfortable, but I also kind of really liked them. I really respected those ones. Yeah, as horrible as they were. One thing I didn't do, and I don't know if this would work, but in a lot of the other regions, if you make a camp, well, like Roanoke Ridge and West Elizabeth, at least now in the epilogue, you can get like jumped at your camp, can't you? I mean, it's happened to me loads of times. I wonder if you ever made camp in Lemoyne, if you could get jumped by the night folk, which would be terrifying. And I'm not able to try it out now, but I kind of wonder if I camped more in New Hanover as Arthur before they all got taken out. I wonder if
Relax.
I wonder if the O'Driscolls would ever have shown up at camp. That'd have been really interesting. There we go. Ooh. Some big old bones. Oh gosh. Hold on, we've got another corpse. That is all of the dinosaur bones done from New Austin now, though. So we're up to West Elizabeth again. Oh no! It isn't the same one. Buddy, what happened to you? Oh, you are so dead. You look like the cholera people. You might be a cholera person. Okay. Right. I think there's another one about here. Don't know how to get back to a road though. Actually, I just realised, now we're in West Elizabeth, I need to get the rock carvings as well, and I think there's one around here. Is that the rock carvings? Yeah, rock carvings. So we'll do this rock carving and then we'll go up to the dinosaur bones there, and now we need to be doing both. This is where it gets tricky when I have to multitask. Not my greatest strength. I had a good question from Angel, asking what are my top 5 favourite places. Very broad, not towns or anything specific, just in all of the map, where are my top 5 favourite places. And I think my top 5 least favourite places as well. That's a tricky question. It's a good question, but it's a tricky one. This game has so many brilliant and terrible places. Obviously, Sandony is going to be my top least favourite place, but I'll get to those in a bit. I think, in no particular order, and just off the top of my head, Clemens Point has to be one of my top favourites. There's just such a lovely, like, little clearing cut off from the eyes of civilization by that wood, just by a lake.
Easy there.
One will have to be the hill above Beaver Hollow, where I signed off as Arthur so many times, overlooking the trees and the waterfall. It was really pretty, and I don't know, it just became a very special place because that was the times of kind of respite that I got with Arthur. Especially around that time of the story when I really needed it the most. And I don't know, chapter 6 just felt like a very long chapter. So I just felt like I spent like so much longer there than in many of the other places. So that would definitely have to be 2. Clemens Point in there. Actually, it's difficult. I've not really got much of an emotional attachment to it, but it's just a really nice view. But that place where is actually where I just was when you come out of that canyon. I'll see if I can find where it was actually. I think it's around here when you you're up the top out of this wiggly bit, and you can just sort of see over like all of the desert, and that's just such a beautiful view. So yeah, definitely there would probably be one of my favourites. I actually really liked the Grizzlies. I hardly ever spent any time there, but I did really like it. It was just so beautiful and picturesque, and everywhere else looks so busy. There's like buildings and trains and just colour everywhere, and that's really cool. But I just love the simplicity of the mountains, like the minimalism of it. But where in particular? I don't know. I'm not quite sure. Can I just say the Grizzlies as a whole? Is that too broad? Oh, a 5th would have to be, I don't know if I'll be able to find it. Is it Fairvale Shanty? The like flower meadows up on the hill, where there was just that shack, and I think it might be this one, near where I said Bigfoot can be found if you follow the birds. Yeah, that was really, really beautiful. All of like, you go over the hill and there's just all these beautiful wildflowers. So yeah, probably there. And I think that's my 5. My least favourite 5, obviously Saint Denis. Shady Belle. I don't think I would mind it actually. I wouldn't love it, but I wouldn't mind it. I think it's the fact that it was just so messy and cluttered, which didn't kind of help. You can see Saint Denis, you've got all the alligators and stuff. I think if it was just like a tucked away, beautiful upkept manor, with like, clear space, but I think everywhere just looked really run down and messy and stuff. So Saint Denis, Shady Belle, definitely Van Horn, definitely Annesburg, and just that whole area. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm running out of room. And the oil fields. They were pretty horrible. I actually really quickly came to 5 least favourite places. I feel like I've not given it enough thought. I didn't realise there's so many places in this game I don't like. I think overall I'm a bigger fan of natural, beautiful areas with like minimal civilization and industry, and my least favourites are typically crowded, no longer natural, high industry places, or places where like humans have come in and made a big mess. So yeah, like that's why Beaver Hollow probably wouldn't make my list, because it was very cluttered and messy, but also if you got rid of all the human stuff, it was actually a really beautiful area. It was like a really cool cave and stuff. It was just the stuff in the cave, but the actual area was stunning. Yeah, it's just the people. It's just the people ruin everything. So yeah, those would be my answers. Good question. Very good question. I don't remember that bit. of 10. Beautiful bird. Golden eagle. $15.30, we're halfway there. There's something here. Can't remember which it is, I've forgotten. We'll find out. I will start talking about my thoughts on the game. Just in a gamey sense. Kind of how it plays, you know, the music, the controls, just game stuff. I'm not talking about the story yet. Someone had a really good point in the comments that I should probably say before I get into this that I did play on mouse and keyboard, so if I do go into anything to do with like the controls or anything, obviously that's going to be from the perspective of someone playing mouse and keyboard, not necessarily, it's not necessarily going to be the same with controller. Oh, I do really like this area actually. Sorry Angel, I'm trying to make up my mind. Yeah, this is definitely going to be one of my favourite spots. Oh, which one am I kicking off the list though? Why was I always signing off up the mountain? I should have been here. Look at this. I think this will replace the desert. I think that's what I'm going to kick off the list. That desert view was amazing, but I wasn't... Like, I was there so little. I didn't really build that connection with it, but this is just... And this is where, like, the epilogue was. This was, like, such a nurturing place for a broken heart to heal. Yeah, okay. I'm kicking the other one off the list, Angel. This might be a bit all over the place. I've got no structure or anything ready, but I really liked the tutorial, or what you'd consider the tutorial. I liked how passive that felt. There's so many games where you have to sit through a really, like, boring kind of, yeah, mind-numbing tutorial. Even for a new player, it can start off quite patronizing, and it's like, look left, look right, and it just feels very, I don't know. I'm one of those people who, when I get IKEA furniture, I try and put it together myself and I don't read the directions. And I'm the same with tutorials. Even though I don't necessarily know how to play the game, I don't want to sit there and just do all the prep work, you know. I like to just get into the game. And I think that this game did a really good job of, you know, you felt like you were just getting straight into the game, but you were learning how to play it without kind of it feeling like you were going through that work. Oh my gosh, here we go.
Head up.
Five or 10, we're halfway here as well. Yeah, I missed that entirely. Thought I'd been all over these mountains. So yeah, I really liked the tutorial, or like the beginning of the game where it was teaching you how the game works. It still felt like you were being thrown straight into the thick of the story. And it was using the story to teach you without it feeling like you had to do all this stuff before you got into it. I really liked that. The whole time it felt exciting and fun and engaging, and I was like, oh no, where's John? Is he going to be okay? And oh, we need to find shelter for our people. Yeah, so I was just so like into what was going on. I was kind of learning without really realizing I was learning. Yeah, the only time I think that was a bit of a downside was when it felt like we were out of that first chapter, and I was like, oh great, I'm in a free roam world now, I can go and do what I want. And then of course, like in the earlier missions, yes, you're in free roam and it does give you the whole world to explore, but during the missions it very much still tries to keep you tethered. It wants you to stay in this place and do the thing. Yeah, and otherwise you'd fail the mission. It kind of did that a bit at other times, like at the end when I ran up the hill and then it said Abandoned John. So that might not be to do with just the tutorial, but I kind of feel like if it was more obvious, I would have been more inclined to stick around. You know, I wasn't running away to try and like push the boundaries or anything. I just thought I could go off and run around the town, and yeah, it didn't let me. So, I mean, it was no harm done, but I feel like if that had been a bit more obvious, and maybe because they'd made it such a nice, smooth way to do the tutorial that like didn't feel like you were doing a tutorial because it was so subtle, maybe the downside of that subtlety was yeah, it wasn't necessarily obvious when you were out of the tutorial or like of that learning part. So but I mean, nothing really bad happened. It was just had to restart a mission here and there. But yeah, overall I still think that was a really good way to do it. I was very impressed. To be honest, even those bits like where I kind of went off course wouldn't really have been as much of a problem at all. It was only because I was streaming and then I was like, oh, it's going to be really irritating for people watching. But obviously most people wouldn't be presenting their playthrough to the internet, so
Look out for each other, huh?
there's some parts of this where I wasn't quite sure if it fell into like the story or the game. This is one of those things, but I really like the diversity of the gang, of like the characters surrounding our protagonist. If you think about each gang member, they are all so different from each other. They all have such different backstories, different personalities. They all bring something different to the group, good or bad or both. And I just thought that was so incredible of like the writers and the people who are like thinking up what to put in this game, or who contributed to that. Because how many gang members were there? That was like 21 or something, 24, I can't remember. But that's a lot of characters to make fully fleshed out, but also totally unique from each other. And they all bring something different to the dynamic of the group. I just thought that was really cool that everyone felt so real and fleshed out, but equally so unique and very much their own person. Oh, I thought this was a dinosaur bone. Wait, it is! It's in the wall! Ooh. Alright. Excellent. Sorry, John. Right, the next one I believe was here? I think? That should be a rock carving, I believe. I was absolutely blown away. Like, that's not even enough. There are no words for me to articulate just how I felt, like how impressed I was about the just how realistic this game feels. Just, it's next level. It's like the writing, the motion capture, the voiceovers, like just every small expression. I know I say before a lot about Arthur when he was talking to Sister Calderon, and a lot of you rightly said as well, Colm O'Driscoll, when he kind of like that hope leaves him of being saved and he realizes that that he's not going to get rescued. And like the wildlife, like just coming across like a couple of wild animals like bashing antlers, and like an eagle swoop down and take a fish. If I leave like a carcass somewhere from hunting, you know, wild animals will come in and like eat from it. It's just like there's so much that they've done. Like this must have taken so long. But it just makes it feel so alive and real and immersive. Not to mention that the graphics are really, really good. I don't even have mine on like the most highest, you know, crazy graphics or anything. But It's difficult for me to say because I live in England where like really bad weather doesn't tend to happen. There are like an awful lot of storms that blow in really suddenly, which to me feels spice. Which to me feels a bit over the top, but then also maybe in America that's perfectly realistic. So I can't really comment on that. Hey, Spice is in a particularly affectionate mood today. The way that they've done the lighting, the reflections in the mirrors, the fact that they seem to have dialogue prepared for literally any scenario. I was walking around home last time carrying a dead raccoon or whatever I was carrying, a dead skunk, sorry, and they were even like had lines prepared for me to be carrying like a dead animal around my house. Like, who plans for that? And that's just from what I've seen on the surface. Like, I'm sure there are so many scenarios I've not done. I've read some of you say that scenarios have come up that were so niche and so, yeah, they've obviously put in all the thought and effort to think of everything the players can possibly do in this game. And they've put in the time and the money and the effort to create responses that the game will have to you doing that. Like how the characters will react, how the environment will react. And yeah, that's like, I've never played a game that's had that to this level. I'm so impressed. And it's made so much difference because, like I said before, I would have struggled, I think, in a game so different from what I normally play and so different to like what I know. I think I would have struggled to get it as immersed as I did. But because they've made this world so incredibly immersive, it's just done all the work for me. Like, I can instantly just feel like I'm there. Oh. It's like a cow pulling a wagon and then a lightning storm. But also the sun. That's unusual. 6 out of 10. We're doing well. Obviously the game was quite glitchy at times. It wasn't really that bad. I mean, I don't think I've ever played a game that's not glitched out. And to be fair, many of the best games I've played have had some pretty serious glitches. You know, the game is by no means unplayable. I think the worst glitch that I had was doing that bank robbery mission in Rhodes with Uncle and Charles. And it literally, like, it glitched out in the middle of the mission and it became unplayable. And then I reloaded and still had the same problem. And I think that was just more frustrating because each time it happened I was losing so much time and having to do it all over again. You know, that was quite a time sink, that glitch. And then I think I restarted the game or restarted my computer or something. Again, I don't think it would have been too much of an issue if it wasn't for the fact that I was doing these YouTube videos. I feel like a lot of my negative thoughts on the game are going to be largely impacted by the fact that I'm trying to put this forward to an audience and obviously cause minimum frustration to you guys. But if I was just, you know, sat in my room kind of just gaming to myself, not like showing the whole internet, these things would probably faze me a lot less. It would just be like a quick restart of the game, carry on, no problem. But I think because of the YouTube videos, I was like, how am I going to edit this? And I'm going to have to do an explanation, and you know, there's all this other stuff to consider as well. Another rib cage. It's a very long one though. That might be another fish or something. We are on a riverbank. Marvellous. I am now on my way to get a dreamcatcher tree because we are now in dreamcatcher territory as well. So I'm juggling all three of them now as best I can. Well, this weather isn't very lovely, is it? This looks like it might be. Oh, there we go. Very sneaky. These are beautiful. Look at those feathers. I don't know who asked me to do the dream catchers. I can't actually remember. Is it a thing? Am I just doing this for giggles? Did someone ask me to do it? We'll find out. Never mind. Okay. And I think like here-ish. There should be some more dinosaur bones. Oh, double rainbow. Cool. So yeah, there was like the Viva la glitch on the Lenny mission. That was just funny though. Like I have no qualms with that glitch. That was hilarious. There was the odd like little confusing thing, or it might like freeze for a bit, and like with the fortune teller where John kind of wouldn't actually give him the money and stuff, but nothing really that bad. I think the bank robbery was the only major one. And then there was the odd like just quirky, confusing one, I'd say more than anything. And let's face it, what game does not have a glitch? Especially a game this complex and with this much going on in it. That's the badger. Of 20. Ooh, hold on, let me just do a little swing by. I didn't pick this up when I was actually playing through, but I've been told that I came so close and yet missed that there's a gold bar in here. Under the counter, is it? Oh, missed that entirely. I can't believe I was in here looking around carefully. Obviously not carefully enough. I think I was just... yeah. Never mind. Got there. Better late than never. So yeah, I did find some things confusing, like when you'd find like a gun and you'd swap it for the one you were holding. It did look like you were throwing away the gun that you previously held, but it was actually still on your person. And yeah, it just kind of left you with a feeling of like, I don't know, I just felt like anxious about walking away and leaving it in case I just left one of my best guns on the floor. But yeah, I don't know how it could be done differently, but I just wish there was a way where you were kind of assured, like, I don't know, they put their gun away and then picked it up rather than like you seeing it on the floor. Your yeah, one of your best guns. But again, overall, not a problem. Especially once you've done it once and you kind of know how it works, it's really not that bad. Aha! Well, that's sneaky. Hey, Jenga?
One more time, boy.
Another thing I personally found a little bit inconvenient, but I'm not necessarily saying that this is like a problem or anything, was when I went into cinematic mode while I was riding out and about. If I got attacked by anything, I pretty much never had the time to come out of cinematic mode and then grab a gun, or I got flustered and like, yeah, couldn't figure out how to like come out of cinematic mode really quickly. It would be good for me if when I got attacked it automatically came out of cinematic mode, but also I kind of appreciate some people might be using that to like get film like sort of action video sort of stuff. So I'll admit I've not looked at the settings, so there might be one on there, but I think it would be good if there's a setting where you could kind of toggle it to like automatically leave cinematic mode
Easy now.
Yeah, if like enemies are nearby, or you know, if any red sort of hostile creatures are nearby. But then people would have the choice to leave it on or not. Because it's a really, really good feature. I love using it. It kind of gives you a chance to sort of sit back. And yeah, and do something else. Just watching like the beauty of the game without having to try and focus on controlling. It kind of gives you that much more concentration back to really just take in the view, and they've done it so well. It really does feel like you're watching a film. I just love taking the opportunity to sort of admire that and yeah, enjoy it like it's a sort of short film.
Whoa, easy.
But yeah, then you always run the risk of getting attacked by wolves and killed. And then a lot of people could also argue, like, you know the risk, so if you're going to be running through territory with bears and wolves and cougars and stuff, like, maybe don't go into cinematic mode. So yeah, it's not necessarily anything I think they should do, but it just would have helped me personally. I can kind of see the arguments for and against it, so. Yay, 20 of 30, only 10 more to go.
Okay, partner.
Something else that I didn't quite like as much, and I know some of you have echoed this in the comments as well, so it's not just me, is when the missions were quite misleading at times, and it would be like, oh, talk to this person, but actually they had pretty much nothing to do with the mission itself. It kind of felt like a bit of a red herring, and one thing I love about this game, and I think it's one of the best things about this game, is how unpredictable it is, and the plot twists, and you literally never know what's going to happen. A mission that may seem really trivial and easy could end up being like a massive key point in the story where everything turns to chaos. So I kind of get that maybe it's trying to throw you off a bit, and so you don't know like what's actually going to happen. But I feel like it could have done that even by saying, if it said like, speak to Dutch or something, I still don't really know what I'm in for. But yeah, when it was like, oh, speak to this person, but actually you basically say hi to them and then they walk off, and then this whole other person comes and it's actually all to do with them. Yeah, I found that a little bit disorientating. Is this it? I think this is it. Smashing. The music, the soundtrack. My goodness, it was brilliant. I love how this is obviously like a Wild West game. It's from a totally different time to now. And they've kind of made it feel very in keeping with the era that it's set in. Very relevant to each scenario, kind of that like really ambient, you kind of don't even really notice it's come and gone, music in the background when you're just roaming around, but like during the missions you'd have like these epic music, like upbeat music. So much of the beat just sounded like horse hooves, like galloping and stuff, which is obviously very fitting when you're like riding off somewhere. Yeah, each soundtrack seemed to really do a really good job of fitting in with like what was going on in that moment. But also, even though it's kind of all very in keeping with the whole Wild West theme, it all still feels very enjoyable to like us playing it in the modern day. If it was like the proper old school stuff, I would not like it at all. But no, I really, really enjoy it, like listening to it. It kind of just feels like, yeah, not old, but suited to an old setting. New so we can enjoy it, very relevant to the scene. The only one that felt out of place for me was when I replayed the final mission and went back for the money, or went back to confront Dutch and Micah, and it started to play that sort of, I don't know what genre it is, but like that song when you kind of leave John and you start running down the hill in the woods. that felt very different to all the songs in the rest of the game. And where everything kind of did have a bit more of an old feel, that obviously had a very modern urban feel to it. So that felt a little bit out of place, but then also it did feel really like, you know, it was a badass song for a badass moment. So like I can kind of see why that was picked. You know, trumpets maybe just wouldn't have cut it at that point. But yeah, the music the whole way through the game, just sort of day and night roaming around doing like a adrenaline pumping mission, or just chilling in town at camp, just the music, and also just like the environment, like the bird song and stuff. It's not even like trains or people riding past, but just listening. You can hear the crickets, you can hear the tree wood croaking, you can hear the chomp of the metal on the horse's bridle. Obviously it's people going past. You can hear like bird song, you can hear like critters squeaking. There's just so much, like, I mean, you don't even really notice it as you're riding around, you just kind of passively feel like you're in this living environment without really knowing, like concentrating on why. But yeah, if you just take a moment and listen, if I closed my eyes, I could easily feel like I was just out in the countryside in real life. You can hear like a crow. Bugs, insects, so much going on. Just all of it, like every little detail they've added to make it feel that much more realistic and alive and fleshed out, like this whole world. So good. Is that it? That's it. Oh my gosh, who found these without like a guide? I know I found some, but like, how would you find one like this? Ooh. One thing that I really did particularly love is I liked it when the game encouraged you to go into cinematic mode and had a really cool, or like a really significant track to it. Obviously my favourite one, of course, is when we came back off of Guama Island and it played Unshaken.
You and me, fella.
It took me ages to actually get to that part, because I was trying to do everything but get on that horse. But yeah, going to cinematic mode and then that ride back to Shady Belle. But even in like the epilogue and stuff, or the ride back from Mr. and Mrs. Downs, and the debt collecting. It just, yeah, I just like, it didn't force you to do it, but it kind of encouraged you to do it, and it kind of gave you some space for like contemplation, or yeah, just to sort of sit back and enjoy the ride, enjoy the incredible work they've done and all the like camera angles and stuff. I don't know what I'm looking for here. Forgotten. Could be one of three things. Maybe a bit further down. I loved that every town and every region actually, they all looked so different to each other. Like depending on the area or you know, the wealth of that town, and like the prestige of that town. I suppose maybe like the local materials that were nearby, or whether it kind of had access to have things brought over by like materials brought by ship and stuff. Every single town seemed so different from every other town. I think Armadillo and Tumbleweed might have felt a bit similar, but the fact that one had like a raging plague going on kind of like created that difference for us. But yeah, when I think of like Strawberry tucked away in the mountains, Humble Valentine with its sort of wooden buildings and muddy road, Blackwater, which kind of, yeah, felt much more up and coming, for that area. Obviously Saint Denis was just a beast in itself. And every region as well. I kind of get that it seems like they've sort of tried to pack like America into this map, so like condense it a bit. But yeah, like each different area again, like the Grizzlies feel so different to like the Heartlands, which feels the New Hanover, which feels different to like Lemoyne, which feels different to New Austin, and even West Elizabeth and Roanoke Ridge. They all just feel so unique and like have their own personality and character to them, from the different environments and stuff. I mean, I don't know how hard that was to sort of come up with, but I like that I can see a screenshot of just the environment, no buildings, no any giveaways, and I will know exactly which part of the map that they're in. Found it! Oh, maybe there was a safe way to get here. Never mind. This does look like the picture on the wall. 7 of 10. We're doing well. Never mind the pool of blood. Let's find out how we were supposed to get down here. Ah, I see. I also liked, sorry I'm jumping around so much, but it's very similar to my point before of like the game rewarding you for taking the time to sort of go off exploring and not just trying to like beeline the main missions. But in a similar way, I really liked that the game rewarded you for hanging out around the camp. I know you sort of get like honor for doing the chores and stuff. But even if you're just like listening or just lingering around camp, doing chores or just chilling, and you know you hear their like all the gang members' backstories, and their thoughts and their feelings and their interactions with each other, and then the occasional Mrs. Grimshaw telling you off for hanging around camp so much. But yeah, I love that the game rewards you with that. You could go through this whole game not really knowing much about the characters at all. I was hanging around camp quite a bit and there was so much even I missed. Thankfully, because I'm putting all of this on YouTube and you guys are wizards, you could kind of tell me everything that I'd missed. But yeah, I like that the game kind of rewards you if you take the time to sort of get to know the gang members. There's so many like interesting stories and dynamics and stuff to the gang that you could so easily overlook or miss. It's not even like, you know, on the third day this will happen. I think it's just a bit RNG, but you just have to sort of give it the time and the chance to show up. It's not this one. I also really love how the game is like included. It's like given like a nod of acknowledgement to sort of real historic people and events. Pretty much all of which would have gone completely over my head, but yeah, you guys have let me know in the comments that like certain characters are based off of real people, or events were kind of like probably an acknowledgement to like real life events that happen. Yeah, it just kind of felt like adding a bit of real life sort of stuff into this otherwise completely fictional game. It's beautiful. Kind of don't want to stop because I'm on a bridge and a railway track, but look at that. Oh, she says as the train comes up. Close. It was a good view though. Yeah, like obviously so much crazy stuff happens in this game, like really mad stuff. I mean, we've got vampires, we've got UFOs, we've got Bigfoot. But the fact that some of it is actually based on real events, and once I realised how much stuff is based on real events, like when I get to like some really crazy stuff, I'm like, I kind of feel like this is fiction. but is it? Was this actually like a real thing that happened once? Which yeah, I kind of liked that even some of the really crazy stuff ended up actually being based on real stuff. You never know. I am miles off. Let me go over there. I really loved that they added Arthur's journal as a feature. I don't know if that was like a thing on Red Dead Redemption 1 or not. But yeah, I thought that was a really cool element to the game. Because I think you are playing this person as if you are them, but obviously you can't literally be inside their head. You don't know what they're actually thinking or feeling. And I think it's quite difficult to like build that into a game without it just feeling very like abrupt of like, oh, your character's feeling this right now. So I think the journal was like quite a good way to go. It's kind of a very natural, subtle way of kind of letting you know how Arthur's feeling, especially with a game like this. Like, given the nature of the stuff that happened, obviously Arthur was going through a lot. This isn't sort of he's walked in on this scene and doesn't have like emotional attachments to the people involved. This is like his family are dying, one of his family is descending into madness, he's got a terminal illness. Like, this is all very like psychologically heavy stuff for Arthur, and so the journal was a really good way to kind of track how Arthur was feeling and what his thoughts were, and just how he was doing. Oh, there we go. And also just to sort of keep track of his story. Like now, with John, if I go to Arthur's journal, I can flick through and like remember all the stuff we did with Arthur and the order we did it in, and even the trivial stuff like the plants and the dinosaur bones we found and stuff. Like, it's all there, sort of a documentary of Arthur's life since we met him. So yeah, it was a really, really nice touch. 8 of 10, only 2 more to go, and then hopefully we'll see Francis again. See, stuff like that. I quite liked like the appearance of the screen. I always forget what it's called. The HUD, I think people call it. Yeah, I mean, I never had any issues with it. It never got in the way. I know sometimes my camera would get in the way of like any text that showed up here, but that's not to do with the game. That's to do with me and how I've set up the screen. But yeah, I think it all looks very like visually appealing, in keeping with the game and the sort of theme and the colours. The controls, a lot of people have said like, how can you play with a keyboard and mouse? Like, get a controller. But honestly, for me, it felt fine. Maybe it makes it more difficult to fight and shoot and stuff, but I don't know if I'm very good at that anyway. So, yeah, it didn't really make much difference to me. Maybe to like pro gamers who kind of can really tell the difference between sort of reaction speed and stuff. But I'm just a simple gamer girl. As long as the camera moves when I wiggle my mouse, I ask for nothing more. I quite like that with most things you did, the character would actually respond by doing them. So, you know, you need to clean your guns. It's not just click a few buttons and then a puff of smoke and your guns are cleaned. You'd actually see your character cleaning the guns. You know, see them cooking the food. You see them eating the food. Oh, it's a big old high five there. Like this. Like, it could just be like, ping, you found it, but he's like actually writes it out, folds it over, puts it back in his pocket. I just love that sort of, the extra detail they've put in. Again, just makes it feel more realistic, more alive. One thing I did find, and this might just be me being a bit simple, but when if I wanted to just save a game, normally you press like escape or whatever, and it's just like save game, load game. Here I was like, is it to do with my progress because I'm saving my progress? So I'd click on that and it would be like, nope, not here. But yeah, you have to go into story. But I would have thought, I don't know what that would be to do with, like maybe like similar to the journal, but maybe it would be keeping a track of like what's happened in the story so far. But that's where you need to go to save and load the game. So, you know, once you've been there once, like a couple of times, you know your way back. And it just takes a few clicks and backs to get there. But yeah, although everything seemed quite straightforward, I found that was a bit confusing, at least at first. To kind of like go here and be like, oh no, I still don't know how to save my game. So yeah, maybe if that had been like its own option or something, or like save load game as its own option. But you know, it's not that difficult. All told, I think, story aside, just kind of what the game has to offer, how it plays, how much content it kind of does have. I think hands down it's the best made game I've ever played. It's still not my favourite game, but that's just because I'm a bit of a nerd and I like dragons and magic and castles and swords and stuff. But it is definitely the best made game I've played. I've never played or even seen of a game that has this much to it. You know, that is this fleshed out, that has a world with this much depth and life and character to it, with graphics this good. I'm not even playing it on like super high graphics or anything. Who dropped this on the mountain? Seven more to go. There's absolutely no way I would have found these by myself. Even if I'd carried on playing for another year. Wouldn't have happened. What are you doing, John? Huh? Why is there a dead body there? There shouldn't be a dead body there. Definitely a health and safety issue. What is... Why are you hanging? Oh, wow, though. But why? Oh, note from the sculptor. So you did make this. Whoever finds this, I am sorry. I was worthless in life, and now am even more so in my death. I gave my life to my art, to creating a monument to the one that I loved, but in doing so I lost her. Great art moves very slowly, but the heart moves very quick. Now I look on her face and I see that terrible French cad, that scribbler, that second-rate smearer of colours, that crude little goat. I have been a fool. I will die next to my monument of foolishness. Oh, that was so sweet of him. He was sculpting her into a mountain, and from his letter, I'm guessing she just threw his heart away. He was an incredible artist. Look at this. I'm sorry, dear. I'm just going to leave you there. How could she? It's amazing. Overlooking that. Look at that view. Poor guy. You deserved better, sir. Guess I'll leave you to it then.
You ready, boy?
And now for the story, which to me is the best part of this game. It is depressing, but it's so good. I really liked how the game started in the thick of the story already. Like, some really big stuff had already gone on. it didn't kind of put you in like before Blackwater, or even during it. You were literally dropped in on the run from the law from this like huge incident. I really liked that because again, like a lot of games, they start you off in like a safe space where it's all chill and peaceful, and then something happens. So yeah, just from the get-go to suddenly be like in all this excitement and in such like an engaging part of the story, I think that ties in with what I was saying about the tutorial, because there's so much going on already. I'm just focused on like, oh no, we need to get everyone to safety, and oh my gosh, we're getting chased, and oh no, people died, and you know, where are we gonna stay tonight, sort of thing. I'm already like straight into all of like the excitement and the rush of it, which is a really cool way to just start a game before like the real story kicks in. So yeah, I really liked that. I thought that was done really well. I think it also, by doing it that way, I think they did a really good job as well of getting you to know the gang one by one as a part of that in a way. It was like, we need like, you know, I'm Dutch, I'm the leader, hi. We need to go and meet Micah because he's going to like find us somewhere to stay and he's not come back yet. And then, oh no, John's not come back. We need to go and find John. Oh, we're starving. Go with Charles. This is Charles. Go with Charles and get some food. And it's like you get to know the gang members one by one. Oh, right on it. But it feels very authentic and yeah, very much part of the story rather than like forcefully put in to try and get you to learn. Because there's a lot of people to get to know. If you think like however many we had, like 20, that's a lot of like names to faces and like who's who and who's with who likes who doesn't like who, you know, who's higher in the pecking order, who's lower, what everyone's roles are. There's so much to learn about this big gang of people. Yeah, and it does it in a way that kind of doesn't feel too much like, you know, standing up in front of the class and introducing yourself. It feels very much like, you know, you already know these people, but, you know, oh, Charles has hurt his hand, so you're going to have to go hunting. Learn to hunt, also learn who Charles is. And yeah, just kind of like learning who people are that way. It didn't actually cover all of the gang members. I'd say probably the key people you were going to go out on missions with, it kind of covered that. There was still a lot of people like Tilly, Mary Beth, Strauss. I think you got to see Rev a little bit. But there were definitely a lot of people who it didn't give as much spotlight to in the that first chapter. But again, I guess if they were trying to do it to feel as natural as possible. Yeah, obviously that's a bit of an art to try and get it to feel very authentic whilst yeah, at the same time trying to like introduce to everybody in the gang. But they got the key people, and by the time you actually were going to do a mission or needed to like really get to know the other gang members, you'd had plenty of time in Horseshoe Overlook to sort of wander around and chat with them and hear their conversations around camp. I just realised I've kind of run past it, but I might head back over here. It is night time, so I may camp up, but I'll give it one more go. Sunshine, daytime, we'll see if we get those birds. If not, never mind. I know I've definitely gone when it's sunny, but I might have gone when it was like sunshine and showers. I can't remember, honestly. I quite like as well that they kind of added in some new people, some like fresh faces. It wasn't like, you know, you start in the gang, the people there have always been there, this is just the way it always is. You know, there were some people who had recently joined, some people who joined after the game started. Quite a bit later, we rescued Shaun, which obviously wasn't new to the gang, but was new to the player. Right, okay, I just need to camp nearby. Can I follow them at night? Will they show up at night? There is a guy there fishing. Oh my god! Oh my god! They're here! It's the birds! Even though it's nighttime. Okay. These are the birds I was after. Probably shouldn't have done this at night. I should have camped first. I meant to. I know where I'm going, but I don't know if I can leave the birds. I feel like I need to show up around the same time that they do. Otherwise it might not work.
Hello, little fella.
Hi.
What's your name?
John. John Marston. Usually. Who are you?
Well, I'm not telling you that. I like to be anonymous. I like to blend in. That's a joke. I'm well known for my humor, you see. Anyway. Be well.
That's it? But I thought he was supposed to be like Bigfoot. How do you know he's Bigfoot? He was just a funny man in a cave. Okay. Well, it worked. So, yay. I guess Dogviticus was right. I've also been going in the wrong weather. Thank you for the tip. I feel like there should be more to it than that, but I know I've got a busy night. I like how much of people's, like the characters' personalities and stuff are showing through right from the beginning. You kind of got a bit of a feel for like who was selfless and, you know, who was a bit reckless and daring and who was a bit cautious and stuff, like right from the beginning. I love that at the very start of the game, like literally chapter 1, it's like a big decision to rob this train, and there's people for it, people against it. You know, it's quite on the fence, but ultimately we decide to rob this train, and it seems so trivial. You know, the O'Driscolls were going to do it anyway. You know, it's no big deal. It's what we do. We're outlaws. It's just a train. It's some guy's got enough money, he won't even notice it's gone missing. And if you like draw the pieces together, that train, which seemed like such a small deal, like we just rob it, get out of there, no one would know it was us, job done. Obviously it was Leviticus Cornwall's train. And then he hired the Pinkertons, and the Pinkertons weren't what killed Arthur, or like they weren't the end of the game, like the ultimate part of the end of the game. But they were the ones that backed us into a corner and drove us to that point. They were the ones that drove Arthur and John up that mountain, that kind of interrupted the conflict in Beaver Hollow, that kind of put the pressure on Dutch, that, you know, got Micah to be the rat. Like, they weren't the very final pinnacle boss fight moment, but they were like everything that had kind of herded us around the map, chased us from camp to camp. They were the ones that made it feel like everything was closing in on us. That, yeah, broke like the gang mentally. In some cases did like claim some lives and stuff of the gang members. And really it all stemmed from that one train that we were like, oh, it's no big deal, it's fine. You know, we've got the people, no one will know it was us. It just seemed like a bit of pocket money, you know. On a lot of games, like the jobs you'll do early on in the game, or like in the tutorial and stuff, normally it's not a very big deal. You know, it feels like a big deal at the time because you're like weak and, you know, undergeared and stuff. But normally it is like a very sort of safe environment mission or task or something. It's not gonna lead to like the very end final pinnacle moment. But I love that not only did it drop you in after Blackwater and everything had happened, but yeah, also it like the start to finish, like how it started went all the way through to the very end, and that was a big deal, and you kind of saw how it like escalated and developed and grew into a bigger and bigger problem. And ultimately that first decision was Dutch deciding to do a reckless thing, and Hosea, at least, I can't remember if everyone else said that it was too dangerous. And Dutch said, nope, my rules, let's go, which is kind of how the game went the rest of the time. A lot of what went wrong was because Dutch didn't listen to good advice.
Easy there.
So it was very like foreshadowed from the start, perhaps, but in such a subtle way. But yeah, I just thought that was really cool. I liked that detail. Obviously, Arthur started off as like a bit of a classic outlaw, but like, you know, he had a heart. He wasn't all bad, but you know, he was very much like, you know, he'd do the dirty work. He didn't mind getting blood on his hands. You know, he did a lot of bad things.
Good fella.
He was very intimidating when he needed to be. Very tough. No one would mess with him. Very, like, visually quite thuggish. And a lot of his actions kind of followed that reputation as well. It kind of gives you the impression to begin with that, like, you know, you're this tough group of outlaws and you're on the run, and obviously, and Leviticus Cornwall comes after you, but then you get away and no one gets harmed. Someone almost does, but no one actually gets harmed.
Slow now.
So you kind of, I don't know, it kind of almost lures you into like a full sense of security of like, you know, yeah, we'll get chased around. And I kind of thought that maybe at the very end game something tragic would happen. Like I did say I thought Hosea might die of like illness and stuff, but like way later in the game. And it's not even like it happens on some big like massive boss fight kind of thing. You're literally just, I think we were told like, go and speak to the Greys, they've got some work for you to do. It seemed like such a small, yeah, trivial little mission. And then Shaun dies out of nowhere. Like no one could have seen it coming at all. And that, like a lot of people said, this is where the fun begins. But yeah, absolutely true. Like at that point, you're like, oh, our people can die. Like this has just got real. So it seems like you start off as like feeling like this invincible big tough outlaw who scares away all the bad guys or kills all the bad guys or no one messes with. It gives you a chance to get really attached to the gang members. Probably to make it hurt that much more when you lose them, or to worry that much more about losing them. Because I don't know if everyone followed the same sort of thing, but I wasn't too fussed at all. And then when Shaun died, I was suddenly so concerned and worried about everybody. I didn't want anyone to get hurt. I was really worried that when people left the camp that they wouldn't come back. The game did a really good job, actually, of just making you feel what the characters are probably feeling. To some extent, like, you know, I felt their desperation, I felt their anxiety and their worry. It did such a good job of putting me in their shoes and being like, oh, now you've come to really care for these characters, we're going to start plucking them off one by one and you don't know who's next. They were on the run and the noose was getting ever tighter. Is it down there? I think as well, like the story in like after Blackwater, when you kind of get to Horseshoe Overlook, you kind of think, oh, we're safe, everything's fine. You know, the story is very slow paced, very chill. Everyone's kind of like, oh, we need to get more money again and we need to find work, and it all just seems very chill, very laid back. Yeah, nothing too major going on. And I think it does that on purpose, partly because it's a good opportunity to get used to the game, but I think it also does it for contrast. Because if you've gone from it feeling so peaceful and safe, and then when the momentum starts building up after Shaun dies and the Pinkertons are showing up and everything's, yeah, like, again, you're getting backed into that corner. I think comparing the peace and the freedom and the tranquility and the safety that you felt in Horseshoe Overlook, comparing it to things just getting worse and worse and more stressful, it kind of gives you, like, I don't know, it just enhances, I think, that feeling of urgency and desperation that the gang were feeling, of the need to get away, no longer worrying about like these big dreams and high ideas and stuff, like just any way they can get to safety and be safe again. And And yeah, and I think the story did quite a good job of like starting off very slow and open and free, and then getting faster paced and yeah, more urgent, and putting in more danger and more threats and stuff. I think that was very clever. Here we go. Is it just one more after this? I think we're almost done. 9 of 10. Almost. I really loved when that mission took Arthur out of camp as well. I don't think I realised how much I cared about the gang members. I think this was before Shaun died as well. I don't think I realised like how much they meant to me until that really good mission. I think it was Blessed are the Peacemakers. When Arthur got taken and tortured and managed to escape. And I just remember making it back to camp and everyone, you know, Mrs. Grimshaw, like trying to make sure I was okay and got patched up, and they were like all worried about me, and I can't remember if they were like going to go after me, and I just remember being so moved and like so happy I was home and I could see them again, and I was like, oh my gosh, I really care about these people. I think that was when I was kind of realised like they felt like a family and like I was home. But yeah, I don't know if that was the purpose of that mission. Like they meant for it to kind of, for you to feel that threat, but then also feel that like welcome home, and like the worry of your kind of found family. But yeah, I definitely felt that in that moment. It was such a good mission. Ah, there. I was gonna say I didn't see any dream catchers in there. I wonder if that's the bit that I was told gets struck by lightning all the time whenever there's a thunderstorm. Because I remember in the comments it was mentioned apparently it's on top of a hill somewhere in Roanoke Ridge, gets struck by lightning constantly whenever there's a thunderstorm. And this is the only place I've seen where I've been like, what happened here? Why is everything so ruined in just this one little spot? So it makes sense if it was there. But I don't know if I've ever been here in a thunder and lightning storm. Alright. Dream catcher tree. There's a lot in this area. 14 of 20.
Hey, buddy.
I think also as the story kind of made you get to know the characters and get to like build those attachments with them, I think watching some of them like deteriorate, some people, and watching others kind of step up, you know, in the gang's time of need, it was so like emotionally impactful. Like obviously we're worried about Dutch, hoping he'd kind of turn around. Some people kind of just didn't trust Dutch in the first place. Others kind of thought he'd lost his way. Oh wait, John can't swim.
You ready, boy?
Glad I remembered that in time. I remember feeling like so proud when Rev like rolled up his sleeves and yeah, started to like carry stuff around camp and do chores and stuff. Obviously when Sadie kind of picked herself up and kind of fought to be among us doing the fighting and the shooting. Yeah, there was like quite a few moments where people either kind of got worse, and it was so like heartbreaking to see them like turn in such a bad way. And there's some people as well who kind of took the pressure rather than like crushing under that pressure. They kind of picked themselves up and tried to sort of carry the gang a bit.
These here city folk,
I'm busy.
they're gonna have trinkets.
I want food. Trinkets. Can't eat trinkets.
It's true.
Well, food don't go make you pretty.
You ain't never gonna be pretty.
That ain't how you was acting last night.
Shut up about that.
What is that? It's like a giant snake fang thing. God, I'm gonna have a busy day at the post office at this rate. Only 3 more?
right, my boy.
I don't know how we get down. The story overall was obviously very heavy. It started off a bit more light and fun and yeah, feeling a bit more lighthearted. It did get very heavy. It was a very depressing story. And I feel like to kind of counter the stress and the weight that would put the player under, I feel like in return they gave the player Arthur, and obviously it was almost like a set of scales. It was kind of, Arthur was like this big bad mean outlaw when the game felt all lighthearted and fun and nothing too serious, and then as the weight of the story got more serious and heavy and dark and troubling, you know, Arthur became almost like a bit of a beacon of hope. And I know it depends how you play him, but it definitely felt like, yeah, he kind of became like the light that would carry the player through emotionally. You know, everything was going so horribly wrong and was so stressful. There were obviously a lot of missions that were kind of fun and yeah, it definitely made me laugh and feel a lot better. But yeah, I feel like Arthur really did a lot, and as things kind of got more doom and gloom, Arthur kind of, there we go, yeah, brought in more like hope and kindness and brought some light into that world. As it got darker, Arthur kind of became lighter. It kind of felt at first like, you know, the player had been dropped into like a gang of outlaws that were trying to protect or keep their outlaw way of life. So that's like the player to begin with. That's like the bias they've been given, is like, this is the way things should be or the way we want to keep things. And then within that, within the gang, the whole way, from the inside, the player starts to see like the ugly side of the outlaw life. You know, it's not all just about freedom and a few people wanting to be left alone and do things the way they want. A lot of bad stuff happens, but by the end you kind of see that it's a pretty bad life that just got some good people caught up in it. It's not that the gang is bad or anything, but yeah, that way of life kind of treads on other people's lives. Yeah, it's kind of taking from others to gain for themselves. There are definitely many people in the gang who were very good-natured and very kind, and just circumstance and life had kind of pulled them into that lifestyle. But yeah, by the end it was no longer trying to save the gang or that way of life. I think the player was almost pushed to kind of not want that way of life anymore, considering what it had led to. But it was more about just saving the people in there that deserved a good life. Alright, final rock carving. This is the last one. I really liked how they added in like the buck and the coyote. I obviously haven't seen the coyote yet, but I know of it.
About.
To sort of show like the sort of show like the orientation of Arthur's soul or his like moral compass. I thought that was a really nice touch. I don't know kind of how deep the meaning goes, but from what I know of coyotes, I think they're nocturnal. They're hunters. I think they look really cute, but like, you know, they are aggressive. Deer I would associate more with like the daytime, therefore the light. Being gentle. Obviously like being timid and running away from everything, but I don't think that's what they were trying to convey with Arthur. But yeah, they're seen as kind of pure, innocent, creatures, whereas coyotes, I guess, because they're the ones that draw blood and kill others, yeah, they're seen as less pure and innocent, but more dangerous. The music was really good in those moments as well, like the way the lighting was done. It was done so like cinematically and all done in like golden lights and stuff. It really felt like just having a dream or something. I loved as well, like in those parts of the story where, I don't know, it was just such like a heartfelt, like bittersweet moments. Like after Arthur was diagnosed, when we were riding back to Beaver Hollow, kind of knowing that this was it, and you got those like echoes of past voices and stuff. I thought that was so beautifully done. Those are the bits that kind of had me welling up quite a bit as well. Here we go, the last one. 10 out of 10. Okay, I guess we better get ourselves to the post office. I never noticed that before. New Hanover. That's so cool. Never noticed it before now. I like it. I think as well that, like, I was so surprised that Arthur got diagnosed with a terminal illness. I imagine everybody was who experienced that for the first time. A lot of you probably remember me being like, I'm the main character, I can't die. Yeah, I didn't see it coming, because in most games the main character is pretty invincible and it's everyone around them who's at risk. It was a horrible thing to have to experience as a player, but also I think it kind of added this beautiful element of, you know, during this sort of change in like Arthur's character and his perspective on the world. For the player and Arthur, I think rather than focusing so much on trying to stay alive and to live, once that diagnosis came in, I think he focused less on trying to live and get by and focus more on what kind of a world was he leaving behind and what could he do in the time he had left to make that a better place. Yeah, which I thought was a really interesting, sad, but brilliant element to add to the game. Whoa, that got dark and scary real quick. One of my absolute favourite moments in the entire story was when Arthur passes his hat and his bag over to John. And I might be looking too far into this, but I couldn't help but feel like it felt symbolic of, it was almost like passing the player over. I know we didn't switch over right at that moment, but obviously we followed Arthur's story the whole way through, and that's at the point where he's basically like, I'm gonna die, you're gonna live, carry on my legacy. And he puts the hat on John, he passes over the bag and his journal. You know, we see a brief last moment of Arthur's life, and then we're with John. And I'm sure it's not that, but it just felt almost like a bit symbolic of like passing over the story, because that is what happens. It's Arthur's story and then it goes on to John. So yeah, I just really loved that kind of almost like passing the baton. I think this is the last Dreamcatcher tree. What does this mean? Why is he drawn like a frog thing? What does it mean? I don't understand. So he's drawn a line to all the different trees. To me it just looks like a stick drawing of a frog with a wobbly eye and an X for a mouth. You've discovered dream catchers in the wild. Find all the dream catchers to reveal the secret within. What is the secret? I still don't understand. I mean, if this is like the vampire thing, where it's like in the center there could be treasure or something, or this is where you'll find the thing. Like, that's a pretty big radius. It was like most of the map. And again, I don't know if there was any kind of particular meaning to this. And I'm probably looking too far into it, trying to find meaning where there isn't any. But obviously Arthur died staring at the sunrise, and it was just a beautiful moment in general. But I was thinking, like, the sunrise can often be a symbol of hope, or, you know, a new beginning. You know, light showing up after a dark time. I don't know if it kind of meant those sorts of things, but I wondered if maybe, like, Arthur seeing, like, the sunrise on the new day in his final moments, with everything he tried to do, I felt like could be quite symbolic of, like, you know, he'd made it through the night, he'd seen the new day in, and then he was taking his leave, kind of thing. Which I thought was really, really beautiful, very poetic. If it even meant that. It might not have meant that at all, it might have just been a pretty scene to die at, I don't know. 29 of 30. There's one more I need to find. I really liked the epilogue. I thought it did a really good job of it kind of bridged the gap perfectly between Arthur's story ending and John's story beginning. But also, you know, after that, like, highly climactic ending, it did feel really weird going to suddenly everything being so peaceful and calm. I guess for the characters it had been many years, but as a player to be thrown into, like, chaos and then suddenly, you know, I'm building a fence on a ranch, that was a bit strange, but I guess the characters still would have felt that to some degree. After everything that happened, then having to settle down and find jobs and stuff, they would have, maybe not so abruptly, but they would have had to kind of go through that transition as well. So it's kind of nice, I suppose, to, like, feel that, what they'd gone through. But obviously, it was so nice to, like, have the chance to see everybody and what everyone was up to and where everyone had ended up, and obviously to tie loose ends with Micah and Dutch and stuff. So yeah, I really like the epilogue. I know a lot of people kind of play the main story and then stop, and I can see why, especially people who are, like, so attached to Arthur. But yeah, I definitely think it was worth playing the epilogue. I'm glad that I did. And then some. I've carried on playing even after the epilogue is over. It was kind of bittersweet to see, like, everything they'd been fighting for the whole game. I think you kind of hoped it would be a happy ending, and, you know, there'd be some struggle and loss on the way, but ultimately, to some extent, they'd get what they'd been fighting so hard for. They'd, like, some of them had lost their lives.
Look out for each other, huh?
So it's kind of sad.
Couldn't do it without you, boy.
That didn't happen. You know, the story didn't end that way. But I think ultimately it was still, I would say, a happy ending. I know that they didn't get their land in the West. They didn't stay together as a family. But most of them, most of the ones we cared about, they did get a happy ending.
No one can stop us, eh?
Not the one that they planned for, but a happy ending nonetheless. So that was quite sweet, you know, seeing them all do well, settling in, no longer being on the run. Because I think even if there was land in the West, you know, we don't have cowboys living like they wanted to around nowadays. So ultimately, the chase would always have happened, even if they bought themselves some time. And yeah, they went out west and found some land. Probably at some point they'd be on the run again, or hunted down or killed. Especially if any of their past caught up with them. So I think to see
What
them
a
now,
boy you are.
so many of them living like honest, above board, legal jobs, settling down with, yeah, normal families and stuff. Yeah, it's really nice to know that's all behind them now. They don't have to worry about it. Yeah, they're no longer gonna be living a life that provokes the law to come after them and to put them and their families in danger. You'll dig it that way. Buell! I can't swim! Buell! No! This game was a beautiful, depressing,
Slow now.
bittersweet story. Definitely about redemption, but not about the redemption of one incident or event. I would say it was more like the redemption of a person's soul and morality, and their purpose in life. It was a broader thing than, you know, I've done this sort of thing or this sort of thing happened and seeking redemption for that. It was like a much deeper kind of redemption, which obviously Arthur carried. He'd gone from being this like bad outlaw, he'd done a bunch of bad things, he'd enabled and supported a group who also did bad things. He'd ultimately been part of what was a black mark on the world, and he kind of realized it, gained clarity, and like saw his life and his impact on the world for what it was, and then he dedicated the rest of his time to undoing a lot of the wrongs he'd done, or making up for them, or trying to, yeah, tip the scales to leave the world a kinder place for him having been in it. That was like the redemption. Yeah. It was a really, really sweet, really lovely story, and that leads me on very well to what I'll take away from it. Yay. Right, let's get ourselves to a post office. My friend. What a
Help a
way.
blind man.
Hello.
Two strangers seek thee. One from this world. Perhaps one from another. One brings hatred. I'm not so sure what the other brings.
All right, mister.
Well, now I'm intrigued about Red Dead 1.
Are you still here? What are you waiting for? I can't tell you what you want to hear.
I always get Milton and Ross mixed up. But whichever one of them isn't already dead, I know that he's the other one. But who's this new person? What's that about? And the last thing I was going to talk about was what I'll take away from having played this game. Call it sad if you will, but I do get very attached to games and characters, and a lot of them kind of rub off for me in a way, and I do take it out into my real life. I have never been so moved by a video game ever. Definitely. You know, I've cried at video games. I've been very upset by video games, like the stories and stuff when things have happened, but never to this extent, like constantly throughout the story. Normally it's like one or two moments at the end that have really got me in other games, but this one it was like the whole way through, or at least like since the story really kicked in. I was just helplessly along for the ride. Like I was so emotionally invested in everything that happened, and no game has ever impacted me that much before. Let's go send off our letters and then I'll tell you more.
Good to see you back, sir.
Hello? Let's send some mail. Are you ready?
What do you got for me today?
Everything.
You have my word. This will reach where you want it to go.
Woohoo. Oh.
Oh, did you need something else?
Post. Skull statue. Invitation from Deborah McGuinness. Rock statue. An invitation from Francis Sinclair. Oh, that looked really cool. The Totalosaurus is complete. I was right. I was right about everything. This is the vital missing link in the evolutionary timeline. The line in the geological sand. A riddle solved. I did it. We did it. The universities will rue the day they ever rejected my candidacy. But I want you to see it in the flesh, or should I say in the bone, before I share it with the world. Please visit me at Firwood Rise in Cumberland Forest as soon as you possibly can. Prepare to understand the world as never before. All the very best, Deborah McGuinness. Cool, and let's see Francis's. Dear Sir, the carvings. You found the last of them. Oh, wait until I show you what I've pieced together. You'll think I'm a bit buttered. Please do not dally. I'm travelling soon and don't want to miss you. See you at my home a bit north of the midway point between Oangila Lake and Strawberry. Yours truly, Francis Sinclair. Travelling indeed through time and space. Oh, we got quest markers again. Oh, this is so nice. Let me just take this in for a moment. Look at them. Deborah McGuinness needs to speak to you about the dinosaur bones you sent her. Yay! It's been so long. I can definitely say that this game has ruined other games for me. I can say that confidently. Yeah, I think I'm going to struggle playing other games a bit. I think they're going to feel a bit flat. You know, I think there's just... Oh, okay, let's figure this one out. There's just so much going on in this game. You can do so much. I feel like other games are just going to feel a bit lacking, a bit empty and incomplete with the amount that is in this game. But yeah, I feel like for the next however many years, games are going to feel a little bit disappointing. A bit bland. Right. Hello!
Hello there! Who are you?
I'm a friend of Arthur's.
Oh, of course.
He passed a few years back, unfortunately.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
I've been sending you the bones since then.
Oh, I wondered why there was such a hiatus. Well, come in. I cannot wait to show you the fruits of your labor. You'll be quite amazed. I was right, of course. Quite right.
All right.
Lovely to see you. Here, just as I thought. Totalosaurus West Elizabethus. The Elizabethan Megasaur.
That's quite a monster.
Oh, it'll change everything. It's incredible. Tail. Fins for swimming. 3 pairs of legs so we could run extra fast, even in mud. Large tusks for doing tusky-type things. And long spines that acted as wings. They said I was a fool, a silly old woman. I was right all along. Oh, this is the happiest day since... Well, since my sister died. But that's another story. Thank you. I will, of course, share the credit.
Oh, that's okay. I like to keep a low profile.
Really?
Yeah.
I must give you something. Something valuable. Here, take this. The handle is genuine Stegosaurus bone.
Wow. Thank you. All the best.
The same to you, sir.
I love how many knives I'm getting recently.
All right, my boy.
I didn't think that was a real dinosaur that existed. Ever. Wonder how much super glue that took. Oh, that was funny. What was with her sister? I want to know that story. I think from having played this game, it's kind of like given me some perspective on the world, I think. Like a more, I don't know, wholesome perspective. Even with so much doom and gloom that is going on right now, I suppose that's kind of like the key thing is, yeah, with the way, I mean, it is in England right now, it is in the world right now. You know, there's war going on in the world, there's the cost of living crisis, there's the environmental crisis, there's a lot of bad stuff going on. And just sort of like with Arthur and there being a lot of bad stuff going on in his world, but him still finding the goodness and the kindness in people and just trying to make the world better in the small ways that he can at like the ground level. I think that's kind of helped me carry some of that into my reality. So with everything massive going on internationally, nationally in the news, I guess just seeing like the goodness in the everyday people I come across and trying to help and do small things where I can, you know, change the world for the better in what small ways I can, and just focus on like what good there is in the world rather than sort of letting all of the negativity kind of consume my mental health and everything else. I mean, just as a game, this has already been just such a great experience. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, just how much my channel and stuff has grown, like meeting all of you, and just, yeah, getting to this point already, like that's a big enough impact on my life. So yeah, in terms of my channel and online content, this has been massive. This has been the Kickstarter. I think it will actually, not just online and not just with my YouTube videos and stuff, I think it will have improved my life and my view on the world and my view on people as well. So I know that's probably deeper than most of you want to hear, but it's true. It's true. Right, hello Francis.
Hello? Hello? Mr. Sinclair? Whoa.
Oh, hello? Can I help you?
I'm sorry for intruding. Mrs. Sinclair?
Yes? How did you know?
I was looking for your husband.
My husband? He's dead. He's been dead since just before Francis was born 1 year ago.
Your husband, Francis, is dead.
No, this is Francis. My husband, Tom, is dead.
I'm a little confused.
Yes, I think you are. What was your name?
It ain't important. Excuse me.
He's a time traveler. That's so cool. He's a baby now? Did she time travel away? I know it's the end of the game and it doesn't matter anymore, but I just had to do it. Oh my gosh, so I did miss him. But does she not mind that there's all this stuff on the wall? Because I thought Francis did that. Does she not come home and be like, oh, who put all of this up on my wall? Did she meet Francis? Grown-up Francis? Did he come back? Yeah, that must be it. He must have come back in time, seen his mother while he was a baby, presumably spoke to her about it, and yeah, used this as like his base. But then he went back to the future. That's so cool! Baby Francis is so adorable. Okay, I'm not going to do the cigarette cards, I've decided. But that was so cool. That was a good one to end on. He is confirmed time traveler.
Hey, friend.
One saying that will definitely stick with me that I was told was, in a world full of Micahs, be an Arthur. Or be a Charles. Both are good. Both are very good. I think I'll take that forward with me. I think that's the kind of like view that this game's given me. You know, the world can suck at times. There's some real like nasty stuff going on. But there's also the Arthurs and Charleses of the world. They're still there among it all. And you can be one of them. There is obviously still so much more to this game. I could be playing forever. But I am going to bring it to a close there. And with that concludes my wrap-up episodes. It has been so much fun. The story was super fun. The epilogue was super fun. And I kind of thought after that, you know, there'll be like one or two small things I can do. But I've still had so much fun somehow. And like doing all like the Q&A, you know, hearing your answers, you asking me questions and me answering and stuff. I've just had so much fun with it. So thank you so much. Yeah, it's been an absolute blast. I'm going to take a bit of a break now. I'm going to take a couple of weeks, yeah, to just rest up. And then, yeah, I'm going to go into the low honor playthrough. So stick around, there will be more Red Dead Redemption, but you might not hear from me for a couple of weeks because I'm just, yeah, chilling, resting up. I am going to be putting out a reaction video at some point, so anything you didn't see me react to in my playthrough, feel free to just let me know what you want me to like, what cutscenes you want me to look up and watch, and I can video my reaction. So I know it's not going to be me actually playing the game to get to them, but yeah, if I've missed them and you want to see like how I would have responded, just let me know. I already have an idea of some of the things, but yeah, feel free just to make sure I've got it. I'm probably going to try and do it all in one video. So yeah, there may be some other bits coming out alongside my normal videos. But yeah, thank you all so much for joining me. For those of you who stuck around to this point, I know a lot of people would have left after like the main story was over. For those die-hard fans who've stuck with me for all of these wrap-up episodes, I really appreciate it. I've loved your company, reading through like the comments all the time and stuff, hearing your thoughts, and yeah, you've still given me like so much help and guidance and everything. So just thank you all so much for yeah, sticking with me, and I look forward to doing many videos with you in the future. I will see you in a couple of weeks. Take care of yourselves until then. I love you so much, Outlaws. Bye bye.
Okay, I'll catch you later then.